I want to talk about the attacks on like cities, basically. From the executive branch, the president attacking mostly blue cities, in the form of ICE and Border Patrol, and of course the National Guard. A federal judge ruled that the National Guard deployment to Portland was illegal. That happened. Right now, a lower court is blocking the National Guard from being sent into Chicago, and Trump is like freaking out about it, saying, there has to be an emergency stay request. Again, the shadow docket stuff. I'm assuming that's part of the shadow docket, to be like,
Yep.
no, we really need to send in the National Guard to Chicago. It's insane. We have to tear gas more babies. And like the Solicitor General is now asking the Supreme Court to step in and say, yeah, like let us do this. What the hell? Will the Supreme Court allow this? How are they factoring in like posse comitatus? Like, again, this is the same Supreme Court that allowed basically any president to be above the law. So I don't even know what the point of the Supreme Court is anyway, but give me your read on specifically this insane attack on so many cities around this country.
Yeah. So this is a pretty complicated situation.
Yeah.
But here are some things going on. So yes, first of all, the judge in Oregon, who notably was a Trump appointee during his first term, Trump went in and basically was like, we can't execute the laws with the regular forces. And by the way, put a pin in the term regular forces. That's going to come back.
Yes.
So we can't do it. And also, like, there's a rebellion brewing because of these protests. And so
there's a frog rebellion.
Right. And the judge said, she just looked at the facts on the ground and said, this is untethered to the facts. Like, it's just not what is actually going on. There is no evidence of rebellion. So, and you seem to be able to execute the laws just fine. So you actually don't need the National Guard. So that will get appealed up, and that's in the Ninth Circuit. So I assume that the administration will quickly, if they haven't already, appeal that to the Ninth Circuit. Meanwhile, there's the Chicago cases. They are similarly, the Trump administration is saying, there's like a rebellion brewing and we can't like do this with the regular forces. So they go into the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court gets this Chicago petition. And I have to say, like, I just don't think that the justices actually want to be the one deciding this. Like, this is not, I just have to just sort of politically for the court. Like, they obviously want to give Trump whatever he wants as much as possible. And they also don't want it to be called like a Roberts invasion, right? Or an Alito invasion, right? Like,
right.
I don't think like they didn't like really join the court to like start sending the Texas National Guard into Illinois. So
I feel like Alito would think that's kind of tight, though. I feel like he'd be like, yes.
Okay, I don't want to speak for all of them, but broadly.
Yeah.
All right. So, and this is where it really, like, this is a little nerdy, but I think your viewers might find this fun. There's a brilliant professor and former Justice Department official at Georgetown Law School, and he files an amicus brief in this case. And he says, regular forces doesn't mean what the administration says it means. They're saying, oh, we can't like enforce the laws with the regular forces, meaning the civilian forces, meaning ICE officers or the Federal Protective Service. So we need to call in the National Guard. And this professor, his name is Marty Lederman, he writes this amicus brief going, the history of this statute that they've invoked, and all of the references to the term regular forces around that and for decades afterwards, including by the Supreme Court, it just is 100% definitely a reference to the military. So basically what the statute says is if you need help enforcing the laws, you have to bring in the military. And then if the military can't do it, then you can bring in the National Guard.
Interesting. And Trump's probably like, hell yeah, like, no.
He was basically giving the Supreme Court a way to like send this case back down on a technicality and not sort of become the face of like Trump's invasions here.
Yes.
So
But
this,
don't tempt them, because I'm saying, like, if Stephen Miller gets word that first you need to send in the actual military, like, okay, and then the National Guard, fine.
I mean, you've hit on a real concern here, right? So the Supreme Court, I have to say, is intrigued because they told the parties, can you please file supplemental briefs about this point that Marty Lederman made about the meaning of regular forces? So I think they are very much intrigued by basically saying, let's throw this out on technicality or send it back down and say, like, work this out otherwise.
Yeah.
But your point is well taken. The fear is that if they take away this statutory authority that Trump has claimed, then Trump will say, I guess I'm just going to have to send them in the military. I'll have to use the Insurrection Act, which is not subject to posse comitatus, which is the restriction on the military using the military to enforce civilian law, to do law enforcement.
So that's why they like the Insurrection Act.
Yes, it's the Insurrection Act is a dangerous law that enables a situation that is really at odds with a democracy. On the other hand, the preconditions for invoking the Insurrection Act are much more restrictive. So because it's such an awesome power, the preconditions for what is necessary for invoking it and sending in the military are much tougher. So I think the reason that the Trump administration is using the statutory authority that it is claimed to is that it's a lower bar for,
Right.
what would allow them to send in troops. So
Regular forces.
yeah, so pay attention to that term. So I think it's possible at this point that the justices are going to say, like, this needs to go back to the district court and they need to evaluate other parts of this law because, like, this particular part doesn't work, and just sort of try to drag this out because they don't really want to deal with it. But
the thing is about the Supreme Court is, like, even and if it, I always feel like, I mean, we have to pay attention to them, but every time they do something that seems good, I'm like, don't draw attention to it, because then they'll, like, knee jerk react, and be like, I actually hate civil rights, ultimately. I actually love the military and communities. Because if this decision comes out and they do punt it or they don't rule on it, like, I'm sure people will, it's good. But as you're mentioning, it might just be a technicality that they just kind of don't want to be the ones to put their names on it. What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/Bitchuation Room. Do it.